Okay, this is take 2 because I was interrupted. This lesson today is on solving multi-step equations with variables on both sides. Our essential question is, how do you solve multi-step equations with variables on both sides? Please make sure that your notebook is set up. Pause the video if you need to. I also gave you a little handout to help you remember the steps in solving a multi-step equation. This works for any equation, steps to think through. And it's a little saying that says, don't call me after midnight. You know Mrs. Adams would be really unhappy if you called her after midnight, so please don't call me after midnight. The first step, the D, the don't, stands for distribute. The C stands for combine like terms, if there are any. And remember that those two steps, that's where our simplifying comes in. We always want to try to simplify our equations first. The me stands for move the variables. And I want you to remember that we're moving those variables by adding or subtracting. The after stands for add or subtract.
Attention. If there are any students in the building or unsupervised please leave the building. Thank you.
So this is where we are adding or subtracting our constants. Sorry for the interruption. And then the M stands for midnight, multiply or divide, and that's where we're canceling out our coefficient. So I hope that little saying might help you remember your steps in what you need to do. So looking now at our problems, and remember we are a little bit flexible, so even though we have this saying to help us, there are things you can do before another. But we want to first start by simplifying. Okay, so distributing. We don't have any distributing. There's no parentheses. Now let's look for like terms. We don't have any like terms on the left side, but we do have some like terms on the right side. So remember, pay attention to the sign in front of the term. So this is 7c minus 2c. So I do need to put that together. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the left side. The right side would be 5c minus 14. Okay, so don't call me after, okay? Or, well, I'm sorry, move. We've got to move our variables. So now we're down to where we really feel comfortable. Remember, it doesn't matter whether we move the 8c or the 5c. I'm going to choose the 5c by subtracting it to make a zero pair. This leaves me with 3c plus 1 equals negative 14. Make sure you don't lose the sign in front of the 14. Now we're ready to add or subtract our constant. So minus 1. That leaves me 3c equals negative 15. And now we're ready to multiply or divide. So divide by 3. We made it to midnight, but you haven't called me. So c equals negative 5. Remember, you can check your solution. I know if you solve an equation and you feel a little uncertain of whether or not it really is the solution, then that's when I would recommend you check it. So we can take the 5 and we're going to plug it in everywhere that we see a C. And hopefully if, whoops, and I should be plugging in negative 5, that would be a problem. Hopefully when we check this, we will see that it does come out. This is negative 35 minus 14 plus 10. And so yes, that does end up working. And you can double check me with a calculator. Okay, so let's look at number 6. Don't call me after midnight, right? You're all going to do it now. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is distribute. So looking here on the left, we do have some parentheses. The 5 isn't affected, but we do need to distribute this negative 7. So it'd be negative 7t minus 7. Remember, that's a common place we're going to mess up. Okay, the right side is still the same. Now that we've distributed, we need to look for any like terms. We do have some like terms right here with the 5 and negative 7. So I'm going to write negative 7t, and it's going to be 5 take away 7, which is negative 2. Okay, now we've got it all simplified. Now we're ready to move our variables and get t by itself. So I don't know, let's be different. Let's add 7t to both sides. We'll move it the other way this time. That leaves us with negative 2 equals negative 3t plus 3. And then we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. Okay, I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable with this. How about you? And then our last step would be to divide by negative 3 because that's the inverse operation. And so the way we could write this is t equals 5/3. Or we could write 1 2/3. We would not want to answer as a decimal because this is a repeating decimal. Okay? Now, we've gone through 2 examples together. A lot of this should feel familiar to you. So I would like you to try this last example on your own and be ready to discuss it when you come to class.